Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are on to our favorite video of the day, player props, as we look at a pretty big NBA slate. A lot of players to choose from, as a lot of teams are in action tonight. Make sure you check out Nate's articles up on playpicks.com. Got some of those best bets and these player props for you in there as well. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area. Nate, let's get into player props and a gift card opportunity coming up for you guys as well.
Yeah, looking at the Memphis Grizzlies and Atlanta Hawks, two teams that have been lights out at home, giving up a ton of production on the road. Obviously, one will be on the road tonight, and that is Atlanta, which gives up a solid 113 points per game with the third worst defensive rating on that road, fourth most assists per game allowed as well. So going into Memphis, you have to like Ja Morant's chances to put up a good line here with both points and assists. He has had no problem scoring on Trae Young and company, maybe taking the matchup personally, maybe just exploiting the fact that Trae is not a good individual defender. In two home games against the Hawks in his career, he has a combined 52 points on 55% field goal shooting, nearly a 30% usage rate, and he's ramped up even more at home against all opponents, 26.5 points per game, over 50% shooting, 33% usage. Dylan Brooks has been in and out of the lineup, so that will obviously lead to more usage for Ja. He has the ball in his hands all the time. And Memphis definitely looking at winning this game. They've won 5 straight at home against opponents that are starting a back-to-back. They've gone over in 5 straight regardless of venue. They're just far better at home. Ja, only 23.5 points is his regular player prop, but you could take him to get 25 points and a win and get plus 300, 3-1 money at FanDuel. Gotta like those odds there.
Yeah, I really do. And I don't feel great about the Hawks. I do think they've turned it around, but this is going to be a tough road game for them, and they are not a great road team. They handle business against the Spurs well enough, but this is a much better team than the Spurs, especially at home, as you mentioned. Calling out that Ja and Trae Young matchup, that's where I kind of want to go for the gift card today, Nate. So do make sure to like and subscribe to the video or to the page as well. And we'll go ahead and let us know the combined point total of those 2 point guards, Trae Young and Ja Morant. Get that correct in the comments there, and we will get that gift card out to as many people as get that correct. Trae, as you mentioned, Ja's success against the Hawks, especially at home. Trae Young in 6 career games against Memphis is averaging about 21.5 points or so and 7 assists. So, in terms of those points, I think you got to think that the combined total for those two is above 50 tonight in this matchup, and pretty good one if you ask me. So I think it'll be a close game either way, as you see that spread really, really close as well. So I'm going to move on to another point guard, or point god, if you will, and Chris Paul, as he is taking on my New York Knicks tonight. And in his last 10 games, Chris Paul is doing Chris Paul things as he's been wont to do since he came to the Suns in terms of averaging points there. The last 10, 15 points a game on almost 50% shooting from the field, 47%. And his individual offensive rating in his last 5 is up to about 121. So, stifling for him. He's out there being incredibly efficient. Those 15 points come on, really good shooting, as we said. So, he's definitely taking advantage of possessions, as he always does. And then on the road, he's actually averaging fewer minutes per game, on the road versus at home, but he is still averaging those 15.5 points per game on really, really good splits, 49% from the field and then 35 from 3, 98% from the field. So he always, he's going to hit his threes, or his free throws rather. And then, the other stat that I like for him in the matchup here is that against the Knicks, in his last few against the Knicks, their last 3 or so, he's averaging almost 20 points, 19 points a game, and almost 10 assists as well, on another ridiculous split line there of 61% from the field and 67% from 3 against these Knickerbockers, who, to be fair to them, they started off really bad on D. In their last 5 or so, they have upped their 3-point defense to be in the top 5 in the league, which is where you expect them to be. But they've also been playing some teams that don't pull the 3 as well. And efficiency is the name of the game for the Suns. They don't really need that high volume or really fast pace to get their points when they have guys like Booker and Chris Paul in the backcourt.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, the last time Paul went to MSG, He hit a bunch of clutch shots down the stretch, snapped, I think, the Knicks stretch of a big momentum stretch for them. I think they had won something like 10 straight, and he just took it upon himself to silence them. So with the Knicks trying to turn things around here, sure, they've played better defense lately. They still don't have answers for Chris Paul, who thinks a few steps ahead of even a guy like Tom Thibodeau. I think he keeps this offense on pace, and they had some trouble with the Cavs before this little Thanksgiving bye. Paul, that led to more stats for Paul, so I like him to do the same thing here in a pretty similar matchup at New York. The Clippers should have no trouble with the Pistons at home tonight. Nobody really has all season, and that means that they can do what they want and when they want it, and that means Reggie Jackson can get his against his former team. But when he's got an opportunity, he's been in and out of of starting lineups and not necessarily always gotten the opportunity to pull like he is this season. But his last time out against Detroit, got 37 minutes, went for 29 points on clean 12 for 24 field goal shooting. And the last time he was with OKC in a starting capacity, 44 minutes, went for 20 and 12 against these Pistons. These Pistons are even worse defensively this year. They're giving up the second highest three-point percentage and highest field goal percentage overall. They're dead last in rebounding rate, 26th in defensive rating over their last 6 games. And Reggie and Paul George are the offense for the Clips right now. In his last 9 outings, Reggie Jackson has a 28% usage rate, averaging nearly 20 points per game on 43, 36, 83 splits. He even went up to a 32% usage rate against Dallas last time out because the Clips were even more shorthanded. Seemingly none of their veterans can stay healthy. It's really just been Reggie and Paul George, who you can also look at for props here. His props will, of course, be a little bit higher than Reggie at 17.5 points, with pretty much even money on DK there. Gotta like that because there is always the chance that the Pistons do not hang around and you don't get to see much of Paul George in the fourth quarter. But I like Reggie to get 17 or 18. And if you think he can get 20 points in a game where the Clippers are favored by 12, 20 points at a win is plus 164. So that's a nice little money line hack there.
Yeah, you're great at pointing out these revenge games for players. I do love that that sort of stat, if you will, of guys like Reggie Jackson coming back to Detroit and playing his former team. And they're playing in LA, but I do think the spread is a little bit high. I think the Clippers have actually played down to their competition. But I honestly see this as a game where Reggie Jackson gets his points because he kind of just needs to, like you mentioned, he and Paul George are doing it all on offense for the Clips. So it's going to really be down to them to sort of pull them out of maybe like a really close game in the middle of the third quarter that's way closer than it should be. And it takes really just an individual effort like Reggie or Paul George just doing your turn, my turn, and getting their buckets, which 2 of the best one-on-one players in the league right now on offense. So I feel really good about Reggie making sure, when you get that even money on DraftKings for him to get 18 points against this really bad Detroit team on offense and defense, I feel really good about Reggie Jackson there. So another guy to take advantage of his performance tonight against a really, really bad team is Rudy Gobert taking on the Pelicans, who are really, really bad. And there's going to be a lot of missed shots on that side of the floor when it comes to the Pellies being on offense, which leads to plenty of rebounds opportunities for a guy like Rudy Gobert, who we know doesn't really go above the free throw line on defense when he can avoid it. And he'll have a matchup where he's going to be able to stay down there with Valanciunas, clogging things up down low for the Pellies as he does. And he's been hitting more threes this year, but he still loves to do his work from 15 feet and in, and that allows Rudy to stand down there and get those defensive rebounds. So I do like his points and rebounds combined tonight at 27.5. I think he can get those points there. But really, you look at, when he's playing a team like the Pellies, who are going to miss at the extent that they do, especially with that 44% field goal percentage on the road as a team, and really 47.5% on the season, which is good for dead last overall, wherever they're playing. And then, what he does against Western Conference teams, I think Rudy, there's something to be said for Utah, making sure that they get around that 1-2 seed in the West each year because of how good they are against Western Conference teams. And he specifically, 7 of his last 8 versus Western Conference foes, 14 or more rebounds. And so, it's a matter of him just continuing to really focus on that end of the floor and put up, a ridiculous around 14, 15 rebounds a game anyway. If he gets to that number and only needs about 13 points or so, I feel good about his ability to do that against a really, really bad Pelicans team.
Yeah, and averaging 17 and 14 his last 9 against this Pelicans team, has double-digit rebounds in 9 straight games regardless of the opponent, and leads the NBA in rebounds per game again. It's also boring that I'm sorry I've yawned twice during your segment, because that is what we're talking about with the New Orleans Pelicans, expected to lose by at least 12 points on the road tonight. Still, some opportunities to grab some money by just getting Rudy Gobert stats, which is much less boring than saying expecting a shootout from John Morant and Trae Young, which is why that is our gift card tonight. And that is one of the games we will be watching.
Yeah, and why I somehow got stuck with talking about Rudy Gobert getting rebounds and screen assists against the Pelicans. But either way, that is all the time that we have for today. Like and subscribe to that page as we keep coming back with this daily player props video that we enjoy bringing you every day. And until we see you next, happy betting.